It can be surprisingly difficult to identify these shock value clickbait pieces that unnecessarily vilify what should be anonymous strangers, especially if you are mindlessly scrolling through an app, hitting retweet while you poop, or wherever you tweet, I don't know. Hello lovely people, my name is Emma, welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. Today we are going to be talking about cancel culture. Sort of. Not really? Just stay with me, it might get a little bit complicated. Just to either alleviate your concerns or warn you now, this is not going to be as spicy as the topic title might suggest. This is basically Grandma Emma coming in to appeal to a bit of empathy and human kindness. Before we dive in then, today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is the super tasty cereal you remember from childhood, but with 0 grams of sugar. You also get 13 to 14 grams of protein, 4 to 5 net grams of carbs in every serving. Everyone can enjoy Magic Spoon. They are soy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, they're keto-friendly. You can build your very own cereal bundle from the best-selling flavours, including peanut butter, frosted, fruity, cocoa, cookies and cream. I've been digging into the fruit flavour lately, and I just wanted to show you on screen so you can see the colours. I wish there was a way for me to share the smell with you, to accurately describe the smell, because it's so good. Let's stop working on AI for a bit and try and develop smell-o-vision, shall we? Click on the link down below to get your own Magic Spoon cereal today. Use my code EmmaThorne to get $5 off your order today. Build your own collection. I highly recommend adding fruity to your bundle. There's other crazy flavours as well. You can get like maple waffles, cookies and cream, birthday cake, blueberry muffin. You can also add cookies and cream and cocoa peanut butter flavoured cereal bars to your box. Magic Spoon is so confident that you too will enjoy their cereals that they have a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, you get your money back, no questions asked. So click the link down below or scan the QR code, enter code EmmaThorne for $5 off your order today. In case you were wondering, Magic Spoon does ship to the UK and my friends in Canada too. Thank you so much for watching, thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. Let's start with a quick definition that will segue us very easily into the main problem that I think we're having on this discussion. Cambridge Dictionary defines cancel culture as a way of behaving in a society or group, especially on social media, in which it is common to completely reject and stop supporting someone because they have said or done something that offends you. Looking up this technical definition made it clear very quickly one of the major problems we have in why this discourse is so aggressive, why we disagree so fervently. Some definitions specify cancel culture as withdrawing support and rejecting a celebrity, public figure, or corporation. Other definitions, like the Cambridge one, refer to the mass rejecting of any person. And so much of the discourse comes down to semantics. By asking someone if they believe cancel culture is a good or bad thing, to get an honest response we have to unpack what the person asking actually means by that. What definition are they using for cancel culture? Do they include the average person? Is it just confined to corporations, maybe? A better way to have this discussion, I think, would be to ask, does someone agree with the mass shaming of a public figure or corporation? And then separately, of an individual. It's as a result of this that I changed my natural answer to the question of, do you not just agree with cancel culture, but do you believe in cancel culture? And I said no, because I was only privy to the definition that included celebrities, public figures, corporations, which we will come back to in a minute. However, by the Cambridge definition, and others, I completely disagree with mass shaming and rejecting somebody because one time they said something that offends me. I think that's a terrible idea, and so technically I am very anti-cancel culture. Basically, I see 2 ways out of this language hellhole. Either we somehow collectively agree on one specific definition, I don't know how we do that, like a YouGov poll, I think that might be impossible. Or we just personally pick one particular definition, and then we do our best to educate people on that specific definition whenever it comes up. Or we accept that language is stupid and complicated, and words and phrases mean different things based on different cultures and places and people. For example, it would be very normal for me to say, can I bum a fag on the street in the UK? If I were to say that on the street in the USA, I'd I'd probably be arrested? I don't know. So number 2, we accept that language is stupid and complicated, and instead of clinging preciously to any particular definition or term, we ask those better questions. What do you mean when you say cancel culture? And then we'll get into it, instead of making an assumption about what they mean and having a fight. Whoa. Don't look at my hair right now, okay? I'm under a yellow light, it's making it look more red than it is. Just don't look at it, don't think about it. The latter, being less precious about labels and definitions and things, is how I've come to feel about so many things personally, from feminism through queer stuff, atheism versus agnosticism. I think you can waste a lot more time if you hear a term and then make an assumption based on what you think it means. I know from experience you can end up arguing with people who you actually agree with because you're both coming from different places just in language. Flexibility, generally, is a good thing. Let's talk briefly about what cancel culture is not. Cancel culture is not accountability, holding people accountable for their actions. For example, Donald Trump, a politician being held accountable for acting against public interest, spreading misinformation, whatever it may be, and suffering as a result a loss in support, investigations or legal ramifications. That is not cancel culture, or at least not in the negative sense that it's used. Many conservative pundits, particularly in the USA, use cancel culture and this kind of public mistrust and fear around it as a scapegoat when they or somebody they support are reasonably held to account for their actions. The fact and the problem is this: cancel culture or mass shaming rarely affect those with a particular amount of wealth and power. Here's an example: J.K. Rowling. Whatever your opinion on her, you'll probably have heard at some point that she has been cancelled. And yet, she still maintains an enormous fan base, a huge IP, is working on that IP with massive studios, selling books in mainstream places. She's still got terrific wealth, she's active on loads of public platforms. It's very difficult for me to reconcile that with the idea of her being cancelled because she's not stopped anything. She's not been prevented from doing anything, really. The main thing I see J.K. Rowling complain about is people not wanting to buy her books anymore, which is just a consequence of people having a conflicting ideology with her. That's life, baby, that's not cancelling. Likewise, and possibly closer to home, there are a slew of YouTubers who have done and said problematic things on different scales who are still active with millions of fans on this platform. These are situations where there might have been dogpiling and mass shaming, but not cancellation. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense? So we have, in my opinion, this essentially useless term, cancel culture, referring largely to people who can't really in any way be described as cancelled. However, welcome to however many minutes of me playing devil's advocate with myself. The only reason some folks are able to use cancel culture as a shield for accountability is because there is a real public fear and social concern at the heart of it. As mentioned, mass shaming, dogpiling, holding people, including non-public figures, people who may have yesterday been completely anonymous and don't have the resources to deal with that kind of publicity, holding those people to words they may have said 10 years ago. These are real things happening every single day, especially on the internet. I wonder if it's indicative of a wider problem wherein we are seeing the world and each other in just a more negative way. And again, I'll come back to part of why I think that is later on. As in most things, those most strongly affected are those without wealth and power. There was something Thomas Ridgewell, aka Tomska, said on a video a while ago that kind of stuck with me about being an online personality and the anxiety that comes with not really knowing or having any control over when that might end. He basically said that as a person in the public eye, you are forever all of your worst days, all of your bad decisions. They exist in perpetuity. And that is where most of the negative reaction to cancel culture comes from. It's from people who identify that this mass shaming, it makes people who do bad things into victims most of the time, and it creates this atmosphere where it's very difficult to apologise and grow from a mistake. We have this culture of finding the least charitable possible interpretation of someone or something, and then holding on to them, ready to rehash them even years later, effectively turning someone into the worst possible version of themselves, like an evil caricature, rather than a complex human being. I think we're kind of developing, again, especially on the internet, this kind of extreme reactivism. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a real word. We have knee-jerk reactions to things that might represent an important topic to us personally. We reasonably feel that these things deserve critique, and then because internet, it becomes massive dogpiling. And I think a lot of people take part in mass shaming and dogpiling without even realising they're doing it, because they're having a rational reaction to something that they dislike. I'm going to give you some examples so you know what I mean. So this has actually happened a couple of times. I'm thinking of a specific event a few years back. There was a teen girl who took a selfie smiling at Auschwitz. Apparently the reason she was smiling is because she studied World War II with her late father and she was really excited to visit. It was something they had always wanted to do. Obviously, this made people upset, and the outrage people had was justifiable for various reasons, of course. Here's the thing, once like 2 people had pointed out that this photo was inappropriate, the point had been made. Back in the old days, either before social media or when social media was a more private group affair, you probably would have had a couple of friends come in and say, "Hey girl, I don't think you've thought this through. That's really bad." Even an argument, they would have learnt, taken it down. That would have been the end of it. Because this is the internet, it got shared everywhere, and people very quickly started dogpiling on it. For ages, this girl was endlessly harassed. She realised very quickly, obviously, that she had made a mistake. The update post that she made me feel really sad, because she said she was a huge idiot who fucks everything up, and like everybody knows what it feels like to be a teenager making a mistake and thinking the same thing. I'm such a fuck up, I've ruined everything. The compounding of that feeling with just hundreds of thousands of people shaming you and all of the actual hateful harassment that goes alongside that, that is so much for one teenager who did a stupid thing to bear. It's worth pointing out that there are people out there who take those kind of photos on purpose to drive engagement using that kind of outrage reaction. They deserve more criticism. Ironically, that's exactly what they want, and so we still shouldn't do it, right? We shouldn't fall for it. This is a teenager who grew up in the photo posting era, who is probably used to reflexively taking smiling selfies, realising that was dumb, and then being harassed by more people than you could ever imagine would even be aware of your existence. In my opinion, there is no benefit to dogpiling on a mistake like this. Once someone has realised what they've done, and they've learned from it, all you're doing by taking part in that vilification is turning them into a victim and contributing to an increasingly divisive online space. It comes down to this: mistakes should be allowed, especially when you're a teenager. Here's another example from recent news. There was an incident you probably have heard about in which a Starbucks employee got into an argument and a physical altercation with a customer. Now, there's a complexity here that I will get into, but not at this very moment, in that the customer was allegedly being transphobic and the employee was trans. For the time being, forget that the person in the story is trans. This is not news. Right? This is an unfortunate interaction between 2 humans, neither of which we know anything about, neither of which we should know anything about. Everyone involved was living happily and anonymously, like most people, until this event. I think most people are more okay with this mass shaming because they assume it will never be them. On that note, I recommend the book So You've Been Mass Shamed. In the normal real world, forgetting the internet, people fuck up or have bad employers and they get fired. And that is the end of the chain of consequence. What function does it serve to dig up, as the Daily Mail have done, one of the people's full name, where they live, all their personal details? These people have already gone through the shit bit, having a terrible day, a terrible interaction, and getting fired. Whether you think they were right or wrong to get fired, you don't walk into a stranger's office while someone's being fired to stand there and cast your opinion on whether or not this firing is acceptable. Of course you don't. That would be fucking mental. But on the internet, we do it. As an aside, this filming and taking photos and posting them online of complete strangers is just, I wish it wasn't a thing. I really wish it wasn't a thing. It's fucking weird. Stop doing it. Alright, we've gotten a little bit spicier than I anticipated, forgive me. Who exactly benefits from putting this person in the firing line for mass shaming putting them in physical danger by releasing all their personal details. It's insane to think about. In this case, I'm afraid the only way to rationalise this choice of news reporting is to acknowledge the trans element. The Daily Mail has an agenda, which is to portray trans people as bad guys. The fact is, this is barely a story. I have worked food retail in many places. Having awful interactions with customers is par for the fucking course, mate. It is way too common to warrant news coverage. There is no compassion in this naming and shaming, in this attempt to cancel this person. Here's another example, one in which I am guilty of taking part. Just in case you thought I was getting a bit holier than thou. In the wake of discussions around the tampon tax a couple of years ago, a young man went viral for suggesting that girls should just hold it in. This is a killer for viral news because it is both outrageous and also very funny. The internet crucified him, of course. In the wake of it all, I think he started a GoFundMe or some kind of fundraising thing for sex ed classes, which I actually think is a very funny way of dealing with this. The kid was sent death threats, mocked and harassed, just like in the previous cases. And I am also someone who mocked him, and I'll talk about that more in a second. Again, after the first few people have corrected him, he's probably going to look it up for his own understanding. He might still be defensive of his views, because teenager, embarrassment, right? Adding hundreds of thousands of angry voices on top of that is only going to make somebody more defensive. It's just going to make him into a victim. There is no easier way to make somebody double down on their harmful convictions. It's not this kid's fault that education failed him. And again, I think a lot of people, by sharing this, don't realise that they are contributing to mass shaming or dogpiling because they see it as an opportunity to talk about real problems in the education system, right? But by sharing this kid's social media or his personal details or anything like that in that conversation, you are contributing to the dogpiling. We all deserve to be stupid teenagers with hilariously wrong ideas about the world. The truth is, most of us were lucky enough to get through that phase without the possibility of going viral, and then having what feels like the whole world bully you over it. So I feel kind of stupid and very guilty for contributing to this particular story. I too mocked this kid. This story directly targets my specific interests in education around women's health, women's rights, things like that. I'm sure that's why I saw it. I fell into the trap. I do all the time, and I'm certain that you do too. There is so much news media, forgive me for using so many quotation marks today, I feel it is necessary. There is so much news media online that is just cheap shit and relies on clickbait, outrage content, just to get their site's views. They rely on us getting mad and sharing crap that ultimately doesn't fucking matter, that we can't affect, or which by sharing we're actually making worse, by creating a more divisive us versus them atmosphere. For me, being targeted by this news, I felt vindicated in sharing it, because see what a terrible system in which this teenager is so ignorant of girls' bodies. Then the people with an opposing view to me say, see, look at these horrible feminists dogpiling this teenager for just not knowing something. And then everyone who has angrily shared this story for one reason or another all get angry at each other and drive engagement even more. The craptastic news site that shared this story in the first place gets to sit back and enjoy the cash being generated from our rage at each other, all while being complicit in the mass harassment of what is just a person who said a stupid thing once. Media outlets of all kinds love this bullshit, and we are falling for it every day. We're hurting each other as well as the people in the centre of it. There is a really funny Ryan George sketch kind of about this, which I will leave in the description. If you want to have a break and go and watch that, it's a good chuckle. It can be surprisingly difficult to identify these shock value clickbait pieces that unnecessarily vilify what should be anonymous strangers, especially if you are mindlessly scrolling through an app, hitting retweet while you poop, or wherever you tweet, I don't know. But goddamn, we gotta try. We're all targeted by whatever is going to reinforce the views we already have. It is hard but necessary work to say, okay, am I just getting mad for the sake of it? How much does this matter? Is this designed to make me other a particular group? By sharing this, am I just taking part in bullying a random stranger who said something stupid? It sounds easier than it is, but I'm really trying, and I hope that you will too. At the very least, if you're going to take the piss because the content is very funny or whatever, anonymise it. Censor the person and don't share the clickbaity hellhole website that you found it on. After spending a while trying to form these thoughts into vaguely cohesive words, I popped onto Twitter, on desktop, I don't want you to think that I'm only ever tweeting while pooping. Anyway, at the top of my feed was some screenshot that I keep seeing shared around about women having flat stomachs and some weird pseudoscience about virginity. And for a second I thought, ugh, typical. And then I thought, is this real? Is this likely to be the thought of an actual human being? And while, yes, plenty of people do have stupid opinions, this post comes from Reddit, where if any stupid opinion is popular enough, people will use that in made-up stories to get interactions via controversy. And I realised that not only is this quite probably made up or satirical, but I don't care. If I like or retweet that post and drive its engagement, am I actually doing anything good? Am I helping anyone? It's very clear that the people in my circles who will see it already know that the take is bad. This is exactly the kind of divisive nonsense someone would make up just so that people like me on the internet will fall for it and share it around. So, I don't like the post. I keep scrolling and I share a cute comic instead. What a revelation. I feel so much better. The people on my timeline don't have to see this probably fake nonsense. Of course there's nuance here, I'm not trying to say only ever share positive things, assume everything's a lie. Although people who do only share nice things are better people than me, I will say. Being passionate about some things is good, it's how we make change. I am talking specifically about identifying stupid clickbaity stuff that doesn't matter and choosing to reject that. Now I'm not out here feeling like some kind of smug genius. I'm fully aware that I am going to fuck up and click on some outrage content. I'm just hoping that I can do that less now and realise when I'm about to engage in it, which I am getting much better at every day. Forgive me if this sounds a little conspiratorial. I do believe that when we, the little guy, berate each other over scraps, we are benefiting a minority elite. Mainstream media loves to flood our news with stories about benefit fraud, anything that turns our rage onto each other and away from, say, our Prime Minister indulging in £500,000 worth of private jet travel in 1 week? Just as an example. So here are the questions I think we should try and bear in mind while we're scrolling the social medias. Who is being targeted here? Is it a regular person doing a regular human fuck-up? Is it someone with a vested financial interest in sheltering from accountability? Does it matter, and will engaging with it actually achieve anything? Am I just making my own day more negative by letting myself get wound up by a stranger for no reason? Those are kind of the basics that help me easily scroll away from nonsense that I don't need to think about. There are some slightly more complex ones which I will just quickly go into. I like to think about who is sharing or benefiting from the story. Am I looking at impartial and well-researched journalism? For example, is this a charity or organisational entity highlighting the need for institutional change or necessary accountability? Is it a shitty fucking news site dripping in ads that only makes clickbait content? Are my personal biases affecting my reading of the story and the impact it might have? Such as me and the tampon tax kid. What are the media biases that could be affecting this story? Are there different accounts of events from different sources? That sounds like a whole lot, I know, and that's not what you want to think about while you're just pooping and scrolling. If we all just take a second to see whether a random person is being named and shamed for something that is not that consequential and choose not to engage with that, I think the world would become a much better place. At the very least, I implore you to try it. Again, for me, it has made my social media experience so much better, not deliberately getting involved in nonsense that targets me and furious anti-feminist stuff. Now I just get annoyed seeing people share so much stuff on Twitter that is obviously fake. That's a rant for another day. I hope this wasn't too rambly and ranty for you. It's just something that I've been thinking about for ages, and I really wanted to get those thoughts just out into the world so that I have them somewhere, I guess. All I'm really trying to advocate for here is a little bit more compassion when it comes to letting people make mistakes. Maybe giving people the benefit of the doubt a little bit more often. I think we're all vulnerable to it. I think it's the way a lot of online media works. Just means we gotta work extra hard to make things a little bit nicer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do leave your thoughts down below. If you did enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, maybe share it, hit the subscribe button. It makes me very happy when people subscribe. I like the number big, better. If you would like comment priority and some very silly emotes, you can become a channel member. Please also consider checking out my gaming channel, Little Duck Gaming. I'm getting ready for the new Amnesia game. I love the spoops and the scares. I played the demo on that channel. It's so good. I'm so excited. You can also find me live on Twitch playing games at Emma Little Duck. We have such a good time over there. The community is very wholesome and bullies me, but in a nice way. And do consider checking out Emma Thorne Extra. Things over there are a little bit more personal, a little bit more vloggy, kind of casual, just me stuff rather than news stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff on there already, and I have tons of plans. Evil plans. Of course, the best way to support this channel is via the Patreon, and with that I must give a big old hearty shank you to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon. Have yourselves a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.